finally about ready to hit the trails with this 2021 Diesel Gladiator. Before we do, we need to upgrade these axles.
Obviously, we're putting in a lot of effort to increase the performance for this Gladiator. We've got 39s, we've got aftermarket suspension, now we're gonna do gears, we're gonna do better brakes. It is a no-brainer to pony up the extra money and do trusses at the same time. We're already gonna be working on the axles. It's up in the air, it's ready to rock. So I have these axle trusses from Barnes 4-wheel drive. The front is laser cut to fit the front of the JT or the JL. However, we're gonna have to make some small modifications to the rear. This fits perfect on the JL, but the JT spring perches are a little bit bigger. So we're gonna do some little modifications on the side, and I think that I'm gonna have to move the vent hole.
The space in between the two huge spring perches on these Gladiators and the center section is inherently weak because it's not shored up from a bunch of other bracketry. By using a truss to bridge the gap in between these two giant spring perches, we're helping to truss that load across a broader area and make it to where there's not really an inherent weak point anywhere. I was able to make this truss fit pretty good on one side, but the other side had about a 1-inch gap. So we're gonna add a little scrap material to it, smooth it out, and weld it on.
After a 30-minute investment in time, we have a stronger rear axle. Absolutely worth the investment, in my opinion. So now we're gonna install some 513 gears from Yukon that I picked up from Northridge 4x4. I'm not gonna get into the weeds on why I chose 513s. I will link a video that I did all about how to choose your own gears. I'll link that at the end of this video. But right now, we got a lot of work to do. So what I like to do first is I like to file the backside of our ring gear to see if there's any sort of dings or nicks or anything. Because what'll happen is if we bolt this onto our carrier and there's a little bit of a ding or something because this was just, who knows, someone pulled it out of the box and then dropped it and put it back in or something like that, it'll make it wobble, and we don't want any wobble. So right now, if there's a tiny ding or a nick, we can actually file that out, but the file will show us if there's any high spots or low spots. And so we're just kind of working that file over the backside of this gear. And the back of this ring gear looks absolutely perfect. Okay, so now we can mount this to our carrier. And this looks like it's gonna fit. All right, sweet. So now I'm gonna zip in our ring gear bolts, press on our new bearings, and then torque everything to spec.
One piece of advice that I think is highly overlooked when doing ring and pinion installs is to try to keep things as clean as possible. You don't want any grit or sand or a little piece of dirt getting into any of these threads. So I keep a can of brake clean handy and I just spray everything out continuously with an air nozzle. We're going to use a factory-style crush sleeve to set our pinion preload, but before we use the one brand new crush sleeve we have, I'm going to get everything dialed in as close as possible, and then if everything looks good, we'll pull everything back apart, we'll crush our one-time use brand new crush sleeve, and then do a final reassembly. That, my friends, is an acceptable pattern. I like it. The pinion was too close before, and I couldn't run it like that. So we pulled 14 thou out and reassembled everything, and it is dialed. So now, need to pull it all apart one more time. We need to crush our crush sleeve. We're gonna add a little red Loctite and install the real pinion nut, and this should be pretty much ready to rock. Then we've got a few other upgrades. We are going to upgrade our axle shafts with a chromoly set that I picked up from Northridge 4x4. We're gonna upgrade our brakes with a set of brakes that I got from Power Stop. And then we've got a nice high-end diff cover that we're gonna top it all off with from Yukon. We're making outstanding time on this axle upgrade video. Let's keep up the pace and smash out the rest of this work. So now we're doing an inspection. It's been about 300 miles. You're supposed to wait about 500, but I'm taking a trailer tomorrow for 3 weeks. We're gonna be towing it with this. So I've got to change this break-in fluid out. It actually looks really good. It's kind of the cleanest break-in fluid I've ever changed of anything I've ever geared. But sometimes it'll get towards like a thick gray paste, and that is not good for bearings and everything else. So we're just doing a visual inspection. We're making sure that nothing looks out of the ordinary. There's no like chipped teeth anywhere. We don't have any play in the pinion up front. And I mean, that's just about it. We're changing the oil. We're getting it ready for a long service life. So at the beginning of the video, I had said that I was gonna do a front axle truss. And we're not gonna do that in this video. As I was taking apart that FAD thing, the front axle disconnect, I decided that I'm gonna do that in a future video whenever I delete the FAD. So I've ordered these shafts that are gonna be showing up soon, and they're gonna be chromoly front shafts that delete that FAD unit, and at that same time, I think that's what I'm gonna do, the front axle truss. I just don't want that thing to get in the way of the truss or something like that. So these mods made a world of difference. It stops great, and with this trailer, those vented and drilled rotors are definitely going to stay cooler when we're towing all this weight with my family over the next 3 weeks, and it drives outstanding with these 513s. It's so much peppier around town. It's way better on the freeway. It doesn't switch between 6th, 7th, and 8th gear based on hills and whatnot. It never has to downshift. It's got plenty of juice. So anyway, hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you on the next one.